going to kind of discuss what is under this utility tab here in FBS and go through this and just kind of show you what you can do here to hopefully just get you a little more understanding of the program. That's our goal, is you be comfortable with what all the buttons within FBS do. So we're going to start at the top here and work through our utilities menu. So the first one here is create beginning balances, and most people know this is where at the beginning of the year, or when you used to get ready to start a new input year, it'll automatically ask you to create beginning balances from the select company screen. But at any time you go back into a previous year and make a change and need to roll that over into another year, you would come here to utilities and create beginning balances. You then have the selection of accounting, crops, or feeding. This data set doesn't have any breeding. If you had breeding and it recognized breeding, then it would ask you for breeding as well. So when you come here, you can pick, you don't have to always roll all your balances over. So if you just make an accounting change, you can check this box here and click OK. It is going to ask you, it's going to override any existing entries. Is that okay with you? And you just click continue. And it kind of briefly flips up a box there that you can't really see, and then we're done. So that's how you create your beginning balances. And that will create, it will create a beginning balance entry on January 1st of the input year you're in. So currently I'm in year 21, so recreate my beginning balances for 21. You must be in the input year that you want to create beginning balances for to create those. You can't pick another year other than the input year you were currently logged into. I said those overwrite anything, and with beginning balances, always like to kind of say that remember that if you edit a beginning balance entry and you go back and recreate beginning balances, it's going to overwrite that edit. So please never edit beginning balance entries. If you have an issue with the beginning balance entry, I recommend a journal entry on maybe January 2nd, just to kind of keep that separate from those beginning balance entries to clear up any balances you're trying to clean up. Under utilities, then we have save data. Hopefully you're all familiar with this. I hope you guys are all backing up your data. But the first one here is browse, where you can pick where you want where you want to save that data file. So we click on browse, and we can go anywhere in your computer to choose to save that backup. I also recommend that maybe you have it backed up on an external drive. So for me, this would be like my personal OneDrive. This is a cloud drive. I could pick to save it here, and it's out in Google Drive. It's not on my hard drive anymore. So if something would happen to my computer or the office where my computer sits, that I still have my backup safely and out on the cloud. Okay. It can be OneDrive, it can be Dropbox, it could be whatever drive you might have available to you, but I do recommend having at least one backup or backup periodically to somewhere in the cloud. Then you have to check what you want to back up. So if you run just accounting, you always want your setup files backed up and accounting files backed up. I also always recommend save all years. Then if you have save all years, you don't need save previous years checked. I just always do save all years. There are some situations if you're trying to share data that maybe save all year is going to be too big. So you do just want to do year by year. You would not uncheck that box. You would then uncheck that box and it would only save the current year you're in. So if I uncheck this box, it's only going to save 2021. Again, I'm going to do all years. If you do use our scanner interface, you can choose to save scanner files. Saving scanner files also takes up a lot of space. So if you're going to be doing this regularly, saving those, you're going to want to clear out old ones so you don't take up all your space on your cloud drive, your hard drive, or wherever you're saving it. So these can be quite big files. So if you're in a habit of, saving weekly, maybe you say you only keep a month's worth or 2 months worth or 3 months worth or whatever you feel is adequate for your operation, and then you clean out older backups. I'm not going to check this button right now, but we're going to go here and go ahead and talk about these buttons over here. If you have crops, breeding, or feeding, you also want to check these boxes to make sure that gets backed up. When you save this file, it is going to create a zip file. It goes quickly, don't be alarmed. So it's going to create a file with the 3 initials. It's going to say ABC underscore. Today is the 17th, so 081722.zip. You can go here and I'm going to go to I think I saved it here in documents. I don't know where I saved it at. I did it down here, this one, I think maybe. Yes. So here we go. We have ABC 081722 is my zip file that I created. So that's a save function. Restoring data is the opposite of saving. So you have a backup you want to restore. We click restore data. It's going to default here to the last place you saved to, I believe. You can always browse if that's not where you want to go, but we'll just go there for where we just made the backup. And then you find the file you want to restore, and it's going to overwrite the files that are there. You do have the option here to overwrite all existing files. Do not overwrite any existing files, or prompt for each existing file. I don't understand if you're going to restore and you don't want to overwrite anything. That doesn't make a lot of sense unless you have one file that you just come in that isn't currently there. I just usually always have this overwrite all existing files, but I'm sure there's situations where each of these other options would make sense. And then you click on restore and it restores all your files. Okay. Recover bad data. Sometimes you'll get some errors like a 3341 error. There's a couple other linking errors. And so what this does is recover bad data. I can think it could probably be better renamed in my mind as a reindexing. This goes through the Microsoft Access database and reindexes everything. So if you click OK, you check what you want to reindex. We'll say accounting. And it just says old files have been moved to the recycle bin. You click OK and it's done. Really quick process. Okay. Colors and margins. This is a fun one to play around with. This one can get you in trouble though. But this is how things show up. So when we have help messages, this is saying the foreground color is going to be black and the background color is yellow. What people sometimes have a problem with is they'll change this to black. And then you can't read the message. So you need to make sure that your background color is always a contrasting color to your foreground color so that your messages can show up. There's another blue, some messages show up in blue, so you want to make sure, again, contrasting colors. When we have foreground and background, just make sure these colors are contrasting. You'll be surprised where these pop up and you don't expect it. Like these help foreground colors and background. So every time you make an entry to your report and you have your ledger accounts and centers showing up on the right-hand side, that is where these help colors show up. So sometimes I'll have a call, somebody will say, hey, there's no list there. Why do I not see a list over of my centers over on the right? Well, usually it's because either this foreground or this background color has been changed to where they're not contrasting. You just can't read it. They're the same color. Or sometimes it's white and you just really can't read it very well. So just make sure they're really highly contrasting colors to make that easier to read. And then down here, we have the margins, the top margin for reports. When you're printing a report, how far do you want to come down? And then your left margin. These can also be set by your printer and can kind of conflict with the printer. So I've never changed anything I've ever done. I've never changed those report menu margins, but they are here if you need that. Okay. Check for updates. This is where you go to check for updates, obviously. It asks you, do you want to connect to our system? You say yes. It builds you a file of existing updates for you. Once it finishes building the file, you have a list of files here, and we click on update. Before I click on update, I'm going to say here, we do have this button down here. It says check for updates. Mine is set to every 7 days. If you're running current version and you run all of our modules, I do recommend every 7 days. If you just run accounting modules, you could probably get away with every 14 days. Or if you don't input data very often, you could obviously do every 30 days. This just pops up a little reminder every time you open the program based on this days here. So like every 7 days, I'll get a notification, do you want to check for updates? That's all it says. So I'm going to click here and click on update. This will go through all my update processes. We click on yes to allow it. It's not going to let me move over there. I'm sorry. This is just downloading all the patches. There are patches 1, 2, I believe 3, 5, and 6. But it always downloads all of our patches. This is just doesn't depend on anything. Everybody gets all the patches downloaded and then only the ones you need actually install. So it could take a little bit of time depending on your internet speed. Okay, when it gets done downloading them all, you'll hit dismiss. You'll see over here it says either successful or pending. That's because we had to go through a second step to finish installing those. Once all those finish installing on the second step, all these should say success. Little box will pop up asking if I do want to continue. I do want to click on yes. So what this is doing, it does say downloading, but we are installing these 6 patches now the second time around. Once it is done with all these 6 patches, it will have another dismiss button and it will close the program where you'll have to manually open it again. Okay. So we did have some failures here on mine, which isn't great, and I don't like to see that. But there are some issues with my computer that we're aware of, so some of these are failed because of the issues that I'm experiencing. We will click on dismiss, and it will close down the program. Give me 1 second, and I'm going to reopen the program. Okay, we have the program reopened, and we're done and checked for updates and currently up to date. Okay, so we have activate options. This is used usually new installs. Sometimes if you move, you're installing a new version, sometimes it doesn't bring that control file or activating key over, and we have to reactivate you. So this is where you would go. If I say, yeah, I need to send the activation key, you're going to come to Utilities, Activate Options. I will send you a key. You'll copy and paste it here. You'll click on Update, um, and then it will get you going in the program. I'm going to exit that because I don't need to go there. It doesn't like I exited it, and that's fine. We'll get it back open here in just a second. Okay, we're back open here. But usually if you put a code in there, it did like I said, have a code in there. If you have a code in there, you'll copy and paste it there, and you'll click on update. It'll pop up in the second box, and it will say something that probably doesn't make sense to you, but it does tell you what all I activated with that key, and you'll click on exit. It will exit the program, and you'll have to re-enter the program. Reopen the program, I should say. So, displaying errors, I don't know that we capture any errors in here anymore because we capture errors in our logging files now instead of here, but this is still on the menu option. Displaying live and demo, this just tells you what you have as live and what you're demoing. So you can see here I have accounts payable live, accounts receivable live. My batch reporting is not installed. Live for Packer, female interface not. You can read on down what's going on there. Preferences, we're going to get into this a lot more in detail in another session, but just know that there's preferences here that can turn things on and off for you, can change a lot of the functioning of how things go through, like the entry screens or report screens. There's just several things here we can set up to make your life a little easier, as well as to make things work in a better manner for you in your operation. We'll go over those, like I said, in detail in another session. For utilities. Reset form location is another obsolete option. We used to have that to set our forms. We do not anymore. We do have an add delete user here. So if you do have one of our security networks where your multi-user networks, you can come here and add in usernames and passwords. You can see based on the module, that security module that you have different options. The basic security, you do not have anything over here on the right, but you do have options here down on the left where you can kind of limit access to different companies if you have more than one company. I'll click on this restricted access button, and I can then say I only want you to have access to certain companies here. Or if you have the highest security network, you can come over here and say, yeah, you can do input and edit and reports, but I don't want you to mess with the setup for each user. And you can see other options down here at the bottom. It's kind of limiting who has access to what within the operation. Okay. And then the last option on our utility menu is our select printer button. Now this does not work on if you're on Ag Compass, but if you're on your standalone network or standalone computer, you will have this option, and you can pick which one, which printer you want to use. So you have, like, I have my Primo PDF printer is my, I can add it over here. It's already selected on row 4, so it won't let me, but you can, if it wasn't selected, you could go over here and change it and select the printer. So that's an option we have here as well. And that is the utilities menu in a nutshell.